Welcome to Books on Tap. I'm Dylan,
Boom.
host. We got Ryland, host. And we got, oh, I'm above you guys. Ryland, host, and Kieran, host. How's it going, boys?
I'm good. I'm good.
It's going great. The pod's back.
Pod's back.
Finally.
After our 3-week hiatus, here we are.
Yeah.
3 weeks?
Way too long.
Guess it has.
It was way too long. Agreed.
But we're back.
Yeah, we're back. Books on Tap
No
is back.
distraction.
Bringing
To
some
discuss
more
the world.
non-fiction.
Kind of.
Boo.
Yeah.
But this week we got The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth
Kolbert.
Kolbert.
Elizabeth Kolbert.
Elizabeth Kolbert. I literally just typed that name too, and I totally forgot it immediately. My bad.
Dylan, first impression.
No, you guys gotta go first.
Oh,
It can't be
okay.
me.
I thought this book was very good. I thought the history of science kept shocking me. How recently we discovered a bunch of things that I just taken for granted growing up, like the fact that extinction actually exists as a concept, that there have been cataclysmic events that have destroyed the world in the past. And it was interesting reading about the history of that and the science and the scientists behind those movements, as well as just the format of the book being in 13 chapters with 13 species was pretty easy to follow, and like each detailed a different way that humans were messing up the status quo. So I thought that was good. Definitely was like a pretty dry read overall, especially because even though the format was consistent, it kept going back to like the same, like she would take a trip somewhere and then meet some people, meet some like graduate students, and then show her something, talk about a bunch of names in Latin, and then like move on to the next thing. So kind of knew what I was in for every time I like opened a chapter, and that made it less exciting to read. So I definitely appreciate the knowledge that I now have from reading this. But it was definitely a tough to get through quickly.
Yeah. Okay, I'll hop in the middle of you two here. I thought it was good. I didn't dislike it. I guess I liked it more the more I read. Like at first I was very cynical about the format of her stories and stuff. I'm like, this is kind of cringe. Like, just tell us what we need to know about the things. And I was getting a bit fed up with the stories and the pacing. But I started to appreciate it a bit more as we got on. I did appreciate her perspective. Like there were some moments in the book, like there was where she'd add like a kind of sentence at the end that kind of made you think, which I thought was okay. I liked that a bit. And then yeah, generally it was good. I do think that by the end though the stories got a bit a bit more get to the point. Like I started being like get to the point, in the middle I was like, oh yeah, this is good. The stories are good, and then by the end I was kind of more like get to the point a bit more. I think there was a good amount, a decent to good amount of evidence provided for the kind of arguments that they were making. And there were some places where I wish that there was more like evidence provided for some of the arguments that were being brought. And overall, I don't think the book really made a strong argument for anything. If I'm honest, like by the end, I feel like I'm more apathetic towards extinction than anything.
Totally feel that. I feel the same. Ryland.
Yeah, I like the book. I thought it was solid. I do think that the way it was written made it not very flowy because yeah, it would just start from the beginning every single chapter kind of thing. So I found it hard to like read a lot at a time. Um, I I did like how she presented both sides of the argument often, and kind of made you like believe one side at times, and then like put the other perspective, and then so you really got both sides of it. I really liked, yeah, seeing the scientists on the front line of each of the different animals, and the steps we're taking to try to stop extinction as best as we can, and research it, and just, I don't know, how pitiful our efforts are, but also how impressive they are at the same time. Um, yeah, it did make me more apathetic towards it. I found it really depressing at times, but then yeah, I thought it kind of ended it. It's just like, this is happening. Don't, like, there's no need to like panic, but you should, like, I think it left in a good state of mind. Like, I don't like when climate change is presented in the news, and like often discussions is like it should be the be all end all of all your thoughts all the time, and people get like this anxiety towards it, and like this hopelessness, and like I think it makes a lot of people really depressed. A lot of people don't like aren't having kids anymore because of it, and it's just like it's super depressing. People like get so bogged down that like that's all they think about 24/7. And I was a bit concerned that that book was going to go down that route and make us really anxious, like, or try to. And I appreciate how it didn't. It kind of just said like, this is what's happening. It's awful, but like it's gonna happen, and you shouldn't, like, I don't know. I didn't say you shouldn't panic, I guess, but it just, yeah, it didn't provoke that anxiety that I didn't want to happen anyways. I liked her little, like, I did find it like it broke up the flow and was kind of odd, like the structure at times, but I did like her like little personal insights and like her stories of her traveling to different places. Um, I just think it made it more like a lot more like I was talking to Kieran, a lot more like real. Like, I think if it was just kind of like a lot more fact based and like not having those little bits of her story in it, then it would have been a lot more like easy to just kind of just get lost and like really not think about it as much. But having her there and actually talk to people and saying their names and like the little quirks about them really made it feel a lot more like I cared a lot more almost. Even though sometimes I found it odd and like a little like, what the heck are you saying this for? I did find it like it made it more interesting, or it made me care more because it was more real, and I could picture her going to these places and like talking to this one person, and like this one dude just out here like studying for his whole life like coral, and it's like, what, like, this other person studying bats, and like it's just like, and they spent their whole lives doing that, and then, like it's very, or like the guy from the Neanderthal dude, it's like I find it very interesting, and yeah, that really real. I don't know how else to say it, but and yeah, so overall, good book. Definitely not a page turner, but there was parts where I was pretty excited to read the next pages. But definitely a lot of times I found myself like not having to read the next page. That's for sure.
This was definitely a lot easier to get through than the Anthropocene review, I thought.
Yeah, I found Anthropocene, the quality was very varied, and yeah, I felt like I doubted the quality a lot more when I was reading it, whereas this one I was like, I feel like this is all really good information. Like, I feel
Oh.
like I'm learning lots, and like it's like pretty concise and not like going off on like a 3-page tangent about something I don't care about. So that was nice, and like, so I never got fully lost in the sauce with this book. Whereas the other resume reviewed, I was like, what am I reading right now? This is awful. So, but I did think the everything reviewed had to have like some fucking really good parts too. But
Yeah.
you should know you're gonna get.
With this one, I definitely did have some doubts on the quality in the first, like, I'd say like 3 chapters maybe. And like all the time, like, who is this person to be talking about this? And like, why are your personal experiences um worth reading about, I guess. But I don't know, I did come to understand what she was doing with them, and saw that there was value in the way that she was approaching telling her stories. I do think that the book really was trying to appeal to your empathy, I think, towards animals. as like an argument for trying to prevent extinction, and I don't think there was really too much other than that. What do you guys
It's interesting
feel
that you
about
say that because I was just about to argue kind of the opposite.
Hmm.
I felt like she was telling the story very clinically the entire time. Like, this species does this, and it is dying because its population is small and it is susceptible to hurricanes, for example. And this species is dying because of this. And sometimes she would throw in like a one-liner where she would be like, "Oh, I saw a kind of curiosity in his eyes," or something like that, as she like observed it in the forest. But then
Yeah,
that would be it. Um, to be honest, like I know you said before that you felt very apathetic at the end of this, and I feel the same because I don't really know what the argument is, or if there even is an argument to be made here.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think there's trying to be an
I
argument though. I don't think there's trying to be like a. It's just
It's just
information
information.
presented in an interesting way. Like if this is just a journal article, it'd be 100 times more dry than this. If it was just like all the information without her stories
Yeah,
and without her little tidbits and like the actual people behind the studies, it would be so dry. So it's like it's translating the information in a more interesting way. That's what I understand. I don't think it's a call to action or like a big argument.
Yeah. The reason I meant like, cause I do agree with what you said, Kieran, is that she was very dry for most of the part for all the fact stuff, but all the stories were all about building like the human connection to the animals and the species that are going extinct. And I feel like that's what their big purpose was, and generally the overarching like narrative of the whole thing was about her experiences and how that's going to be lost and how that's a sad thing.
yeah, yeah. I definitely felt that at some, especially like the coral chapter where she witnesses the coral spawning. I felt it come through, like the impact of that event, seeing that event for her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I somewhat agree with that for sure.
Hmm. I don't know. I feel like my conclusion at the end of the day is kind of just like humans are so unique. Like we're like the only species that really evolved to use tools, and that has kind of circumvented evolution and extinction as a concept towards us. And I feel like extinction, I think one of the big points here is that extinction occurs because like things aren't evolved to the new circumstances that they're placed into generally. Like we're changing the climate and it's affecting some things that aren't prepared for that. They haven't evolved to uh, be able to live in the new environment, right? But we have tools so we can like circumvent the evolutionary process in order to live in different areas. So I don't know. I feel like no matter what happens, we're just kind of gonna make it, you
We
know.
keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like we feel very unique in that sense that we aren't shackled by evolution.
I think we'll destroy ourselves for sure.
you think we'll all be gone?
Oh yeah.
Humans will all be gone, all die.
Whether it be like a nuke or like a nuke times 100, we come out with something like that, or something accidental, like biological, or like some sort of weird fungus that because of our travel we like spread it out like way too quickly for us to be able to like control it. Or there's just like I just think there's gonna be something to do with humans for sure.
If we die,
I mean,
if
it's
we probably
possible.
die quickly in nuclear war or something, then we might die completely. That would completely go extinct. But if we just keep just using our resources over and over again, I definitely think humans will survive. We'll just suffer a lot.
Yeah, there might be a lot of suffering, but I think we'll go on, you know?
I just think of like she said, like the ammoites, like the little things that are like so small that you like that have all gone extinct, and there used to be everywhere in the whole world, and like what is the resistance of those compared to us?
Well, they the seas changed, and they weren't evolved to live in the new environment. But we aren't, like, I think that's the big thing is like she tied it in extinction with evolution like a lot. Like almost like the whole book was about how evolution and like extinction are like intrinsically tied together. Like evolution and extinction are like the opposites of each other. They're like, it's like life and death, like beginning and end is like evolution and extinction. It's like the cycle of species, and we've kind of circumvented that to some degree with our like craftsmanship and tools and ability to change the world around us.
We have air conditioning. We can change the environment that we live in.
Yeah.
We can move quickly. We can move around the world. We can go to any biome that we want
Yeah,
to
we're not like the trees that are like
migrate
only
up the
move
mountain.
like 8 meters a year migration.
Rough.
That was a very cool part.
That was neat.
Some of the I really enjoyed some of the creative experiments that were like being showed off. Like some of the vent stuff with the acid vents coming into the ocean.
Mm.
Like collecting different samples closer and closer to the vent.
Yeah, I don't know. One of the other things that I thought is like, man, these experiments are so inaccurate. Like, let's just like look at how many different species we see in a day, and use that as like our measurement for like checking how, like, I don't know. It just seems so insanely like inaccurate, you know? Like all the different ways that these scientists are trying to measure climate change. It just seems so, I don't know. Did you guys get that same feeling that like
I mean, definitely
the
with the
measurement methods were
counting
inaccurate?
come through the area, that's a bit jank because it's such a that's
that was
so
that was
unpredictable.
jank one.
But like a mussel growing in the area, I feel like is a decent measure of what's going on there.
Or like the bats, where they like 1 year they were all there, and the next year they're all gone. It's like
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I guess I'm more talking about like the modeling, like, and anything that had to do with like modeling the future predictions and stuff.
Wasn't there just a little bit on that?
There was a
It's just
bit, but like there was a couple things, like the whole calculating the area of like
That was
change
great.
of the species. It was just like, there's no way this has any value like at all in terms of trying to estimate things. Like,
That equation with the constants is like the constants change depending on the location.
yeah,
So it means that like everywhere has its own specific constants, so this equation is completely useless then.
literally, it's like, oh, they all scale with some constant. It's like, I'm sure you can, like, I don't know. It was.
I didn't really understand that. Maybe,
I remember she put it forward like it was so like, this is like mathematically the way that like the world works in extinction and species, and it's like, this is so manufactured by random human like impression.
I didn't understand that part. I think we're either missing, we weren't told some information, or it's just like a totally goofy equation. Something's going on there. But
I did think it was jank, but I didn't think the constant thing was jank. I thought like, of course, it's gonna vary with like right away. I thought that like with where you are and locations.
Sure, but like how many constant pairs are there? Are we talking like there's 5 in the world? Okay, then maybe the equation has some sort of merit. But if every single location that you go to has a different constant set, that effectively means that every location is different and there's no relationship between them.
Yes.
So
yeah, the other problem is one of the ones that she brought up, was about the like it doesn't equalize immediately, like.
Yeah, that was jank. Yeah.
Like, because if you
One-
suddenly
what
if you
we-
suddenly reduce if you immediately reduce all of the area of a habitat, right, it doesn't immediately cause everything to go extinct right then, and there is the possibility that they can move as well, and it doesn't account for in any way that they could adapt to the new environment, or they could adapt to other environments nearby, like.
I didn't quite understand that as much because
She said that, like,
yeah, she said that.
oh
She
yeah, it
said
doesn't
that.
account for these things, and I'm like, well, those are pretty big things to not
Yeah,
account
yeah.
for.
And she made fun of it. She did say that
Yeah.
the National Geographic released an article that one species goes extinct every 7 minutes, or I can't remember what the number was, but
Yeah,
that's like it's not true. That's not observed. It has not been observed.
yeah,
But she did seem to put a lot of merit in the island theory, where it's like if you have an actual island surrounded by water, and then you can actually observe the species leaving the island, or sorry, not leaving the island, but going extinct on the island because no new species will go to the island after it's been isolated. But in a rainforest, and you have like a patch of land that's empty of forest, I feel like that's just there's so much higher of a chance of a species migrating across that empty patch of land to another section of the rainforest than there is across an ocean.
Yeah.
She didn't really discuss that. So
yeah. Well, I think I don't know. I feel like like, to be fair, my exasperation here is kind of going along with what she was saying about it, but she just like she made these points and then just kind of ignored them, I guess. Like she made all these points that I'm making, for the most
yeah,
part. I'm just being a bit more like, okay, those are pretty big. Like, I felt like they were a bit understated.
unirritated, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
You got anything, Ryland? Any thoughts on the book?
No, I just said my opinions on the formula. I thought it was really odd, and because I did feel that, which I did feel how you felt exactly about it. Just that did come across as this grand, like phi-like formula or something.
Yeah.
And then just like, what? Yeah, it was a super jank. Like this formula itself looked jank.
yeah, and then there was a graph of a curve.
Yeah.
And then it was like just
Oh, was this
and
in
that
the
was
book? Okay, to be for transparency, I listened to the audiobook and you guys both read it.
yeah.
Yeah, you guys both read the physical copies
Yeah.
or
The only figures besides photos was that graph, I think.
I haven't
And
seen
then
this graph because I read the audiobook.
Yeah,
It's riveting.
at the end of the book, there's a timeline of extinctions as well.
Yeah. The photos were good, but it was hard. They're black and white, and some of them were pretty hard to take out. Like I wanted to see a lot more detail. I felt like because they're black and white, I lost a lot.
Okay, they're black and white in the actual book as well. I was wondering about that because I read it on digital.
Why would they be black and white and digital? That's so jank.
What?
Why would they be black and white and digital? That's so jank.
Because my Kubota can't do color. Yeah,
That's really odd. I think mine. I don't know if mine can either. But why wouldn't they put a color on the freaking?
because it lasts like 70 hours.
Yeah,
battery.
yeah, I guess so.
So,
the new Kindles?
Guys
I
got
thought.
anyone? Oh, yeah, go for it.
Oh, what were you gonna say about? You were gonna talk about this specific chapter? Or just
No,
move
you're just
on?
gonna say you want to move on to the chapter.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let's move on to the chapter.
No, Carrie, if you got something to say, go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna move on to another chapter, so let's just do that instead.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, let's.
Did we go
Yeah,
through a chapter yet?
No, but
we
I don't know.
no.
We're talking about everything.
Yeah, we're kind of we've been waffling around. It's been good combo. But
Yeah, no, it has been.
like we need some more prompts. All right,
Oh,
chapter 1. So this was using frogs and fungi. This chapter discusses how humans may have introduced an invasive species into Panama and caused the extinction rate of the frogs to increase. So this was about like the fungi that was introduced by the frogs. So I guess this was kind of like the introductory to like to extinction, I guess.
Yeah.
Is species that or I guess this is this is the invasive species portion, I guess. Because I guess the other ones weren't really talking about invasive species. Some of them were, but
Well, this one's about how humans' ability to travel around the world has disrupted.
yes.
Yeah, the evolutionary path of
Yeah.
being separated
Yeah, because
Right.
basically there was one frog that basically had this fungus on them that they're conditioned against, and they basically moved along with the humans everywhere, and then that fungus is now affecting frogs that don't have the same they don't have the same
They
antibodies.
evolved in isolation, and then they were faced with a fungus that they have never seen.
Yeah, they're going
What
extinct.
makes you guys think that we're not gonna have a fungus like that? That's gonna kill us all.
I mean, we're all over the world.
I never said that, but
And we've kind of got the like I don't know, the frogs are kind of they're at the mercy of nature.
So are we. We saw
Bro,
COVID.
did you not just experience this COVID thing where we made fucking vaccines?
I know, but if it was a deadly or something, well, it'd have to be like the perfect mix. But if it was something like a fungus that grew inside of us that took a while to kill us, but did kill us, you know, so it could spread effectively and then have like maybe it took 14 days to kill you, but it could spread effectively in that time. If it was like a fungus like this thing that's spreading all over the world and killing all the
yeah.
frogs.
Well, the thing with this isn't cordyceps, but I think you're talking like when people talk about this, I mean like the Last of Us fungus, the cordyceps. Each one of those fungi has evolved over millions of years to attack a specific species, like its specific nervous system. It knows it. So, in order for a fungus to evolve to attack a complex system like a human, I would have to like somehow evolve extremely rapidly in order to be able to affect us.
Did it say that about this one that attacked the kill of the frogs?
No, I have no idea what what the makeup of this fungus is.
Or you're just saying specifically cordyceps had to do that?
Yeah.
In general, I don't know. I feel like that's not gonna happen to humans. It's possible. Like, of course it's possible. There's so much in literature about like these doomsday scenarios, right? But I don't know. I feel like we'll find some way to in all those scenarios. Humans are still doing something. You know, it might be an apocalypse, but humans are still around for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I think a super virus is much more likely.
Super virus is very likely. I mean, we just had one. Like,
yeah, all we need is something that's as contagious or more contagious than COVID, and that's deadlier than COVID.
Yeah,
but it has to have a good waiting period.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
We'll still survive it, but
fly under the radar. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because
society might get fucked, but
yeah.
you know, maybe that's a good thing. maybe we need it all to get brought down, you know?
Yeah.
Restart a bit.
Well, if there's one message to take away from this book, it's that maybe we just all need to be brought down and die.
I don't know if that was ever brought up in this book, really.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah.
Hey, man, all these species are going extinct. What's one more to save a bunch of others? You know?
Yeah.
It's the train scenario. Will you move the lever to kill one person instead of 5?
Well, it's more than that. It's more like are you actively making decisions on the other side of the world that are going to be killing 5 other things
to kill humans?
Yeah. I mean, it's more active than the trolley situation. You're not just like
yeah. You're not just doing.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. It doesn't have the same philosophical.
A little bit different. It's not. Yeah. It's not a perfect.
I think it's good, but it's one species versus like a billion species.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, do we care about any of them?
Sorry?
Do we care about any of them as much as we care about us? Like, should we?
But dogs though, man.
but dog though.
But dog though.
No, man. Yeah, I care about so many animals, man, but I don't know.
Do you care about any of them more than humans?
If you could press the button, kill all humans, pop out of existence right now, would you do it? And I'll even throw in that no more species will go extinct for 10 years.
Boom.
Yeah, as a bonus. Would you press the button?
I think it would depend if there's extraterrestrial life. If this is the last planet and this is the last hurrah,
with very intelligent beings.
Yeah, if there's a bunch of other planets out there with like lots of active living things, I'd feel a lot less bad about us screwing up our planet. But if this is if this is the end, and like we're about to like screw it all up,
Dude, if this is the end, then what's the point anyways? You might as well just try and live and have our hurrah, you know? Like,
I don't like the idea of us leaving behind, like just
The garbage world.
yeah, just I don't like the idea of us, the end of our species and the end of all life in the whole universe be us just using way too much all of our resources and then dying out like slowly and like
oh, okay, wait. If you've learned anything from this book, it's that that's not even like a thing to consider. Like, no matter what we can possibly do, we can't possibly fuck up the Earth so much that that the Earth won't recover in 2 million years.
I'm just trying to create the situation where
Like,
I
there's
might-
there's
I
there's
might
literally
be, yeah.
nothing we can do. Like,
I'm trying to
do you remember that? Do you remember that chapter?
Dylan.
Do you remember that
Okay.
chapter where they talked about how the fucking sky used to be green and the oceans were purple because of
Yeah.
how fucked all and it killed like almost everything in the whole planet because like there was no oxygen in the atmosphere and like the oceans are so fucked in terms of the acidity. Like there's we can't get it any like possibly that much worse than that, and it recovered and produced like this glorious nature of like trees and life. Like I don't
I
know,
was just
based on everything in this book, like we can't possibly ever destroy the earth. Like
yeah, I was just painting a hypothetical in which I might say yes.
yeah, I think the answer is always no, but that's me.
I'm thinking there's a situation where yes, and I was trying to paint it before you interrupted me, but yeah, it's pretty hard to paint a picture, you know.
Yeah, I don't think you can push the button.
Oh, that was my other conclusion from this book. It's like no matter what we do, there's no way we can ever fuck the planet.
Yep. Permanently fuck it. We cannot permanently fuck it.
No, like it ain't gonna happen. There's gonna be some living things that find some way to survive, like cockroaches or some shit, and then the rats will inherit the earth. There was this thing in the book where it was like one of the dudes was thought that like the rats were gonna be the next like major species because they just follow us and survive underground and all that shit.
Quickly.
The rats will inherit the earth after we destroy it, you know, like
they're resistant to disease. They're resilient. They live in cities. They're urbanized. They know.
Another point of optimism was a graph that Dylan missed, which was not a photo. That's another picture.
Oh.
optimism.
In chapter 1, yeah, and it shows the number of families over time, number of families of species, number of families not being species, but number of families of animals. And right now, we're at the highest number of families that there's ever been in all time, according to this graph. Which is kind of cool.
And every dip you see in one of the previous 5 extinctions takes out about
a quarter, a fifth.
A quarter.
One of them's half.
Or half. Quarter to half of all the families.
Yeah, each of the extinctions will take a quarter to half of all the families. But generally, the trend has been up, and right now it's the highest it's ever been. I'm sure it's going down right now, but like that makes me optimistic that no matter how bad we mess up, probably not going to bring it down to the lowest points it's ever been.
What's the difference between families and species again?
Families is like a higher group. Like there's like family, and then there's like a subsection of a bunch of different, like 5 different groups in a family, and then there's like 5 different groups within that thing, and then there's species. Species is like the last thing. So it's just a way of grouping animals. I remember that from Bio 11.
I remember I've learned it before in bio.
It's a kingdom, and then it's a family, and then there's like a couple other ones, and then it's the last one, species.
Yeah.
Okay, in chapter 2, we'll talk about the mastodon. And the chapter discusses the idea of catastrophes as a variable in the process of extinction, as discovered by Georges Cuvier.
Cuvier.
I thought this was really interesting.
What a
as side
guy.
note.
Cuvier.
Chapters.
Yeah.
He was kind of a douche. Eh?
Also,
Dude, I feel like all the French dudes, she'd be like, oh, these guys are like so genius, and then they do something just like so fucked up. Some like, oh, I can't remember what Cuvier did, but I remember there was one part about him just being like a total asshole to somebody else and being like, this theory's garbage and dog shit, and it was like totally true.
like all of them,
Wasn't it Darwin?
all of them shit on each other
Yeah.
so much. In this book.
Yeah,
Wasn't it Darwin? Like Darwin, like was obsessed
it
with
might have been
Cuvier
Darwin. Yeah,
theory.
but then
Evolution. Go ahead.
Cuvier like was at it as some dude's funeral and was like, yeah, his fucking opinions were dog shit.
Yeah, yeah, that was
like I think at the funeral he was like, oh yeah, he wrote a lot of fantastical things that no one would believe or something.
that was very asshole-ish.
It's like, dude, holy shit, that's savage, bro. It's his funeral, man. You don't have to roast him like that.
Yeah, that was so savage. I think it was Darwin, and it was the theory of evolution they disagreed on, or extinction.
Yeah, extinction. There was the uniformism or something like that.
Oh yeah, all that stuff.
Uniformitarian. Darwin and Lyell, who believed that extinction was not a thing because animals, everything takes a long time. Everything is slow. So for a species to die out, it's a lonely process. It would take just like a slowly diminishing population until the last pair goes. And the theme of all the historical stuff in this book I thought was really interesting, how they just kept reiterating that every time like something new, or actually this is I thought this was really good with the card. You guys remember the card part where the experiment where they shuffle through a deck of cards and there's like a red spade in the deck.
Oh yeah.
And then the people being surveyed, or the participants, would like didn't recognize what was going on with the red spade. Like their mind would try to adjust what it actually was to fit with their expectation.
Yeah.
That was a really good analogy for science. Like if there's something that you've been taught or believe in your whole life and some new evidence comes out that completely blows it up, people will try their very hardest to fit it into what they think is reality, which is what was happening with Darwin and Lyell. And they're like, oh yeah, the fossil record is just incomplete. You know, it's not an extinction event. That's just like
right-wing politics.
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry, I just had a little bit of a cough there.
Yeah.
So sorry. I just found it. Yeah, Cuvier was opposed to evolution. He didn't think evolution was true.
Yeah. Because I remember he was like, "There's no way a species could ever go extinct. That's crazy, bro." That's one of the other things. Is like you mentioned the historical stuff like earlier. Like it's pretty crazy that we didn't even know about extinction until like when was this? Like
1900. Like
early 1900s.
Sorry.
Early 1800s.
Early 1800s. Cuvier discovered it.
Yeah. Well, technically didn't, but
yeah, I know it.
Well, technically did, but didn't think he did.
No, he did. He was the one that proved
it. He did think that extinction was real. Darwin and Lyell were the ones that opposed him, but then Cuvier didn't believe evolution was real.
Yes. Oh, right. Yes. No,
both
you're
were
right.
And wrong at the same time.
Yeah.
But the even crazier thing to me was how the asteroid theory that I've always taken for granted, and we've grown up with, wasn't like the leading theory until the 80s, the 1980s.
And then it's not even really a big theory anymore.
Yeah, it's not
Or
even
like it happened like once, maybe. There was one impact site. And so they assumed it happened with all the other extinctions, but it only ever happened with one.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because they were assuming that it was all like extraterrestrial stuff that was causing all these extinctions, but really it wasn't. It was just the Earth's biosphere changing over time.
They think the dinosaurs was still maybe could have been the asteroid, but I don't know.
Yeah, there was one asteroid. I'm pretty sure it was one of. Wasn't there like multiple ages of dinosaurs? It was one of the dinosaurs.
And Cretaceous.
Yeah.
Tyrannosaurus. And
yeah, there was the Mastodon stuff. First discovery of an extinct species, I guess. I mean, in like our history, I guess, in terms of scientific history. But chapter 3. I think the Great Auk stuff is probably one of the more sad ones. It happened a long time ago in the reading, but yeah. So this one's talking about how
This is definitely the most sad part. This was so sad, man.
The Great Auks.
It was so sad.
Ancient penguin-like bird. Settlers in Iceland exploited it, used it for food, oil, and feathers. Led to the extinction, even though there were attempts at protection. This chapter introduces Darwin and how his ideas developed out of those of Charles Lyell, and Kolbert emphasizes the development of our understanding of evolution and human-caused extinction. Yeah, the Great Auks. That one story near the end of this where there was like the last dudes that had seen the Great Auk that traveled to that fucking thing and then like killed it.
Yeah, they sold it for like £9 or something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
L for the Auks.
And there was an island off in North America that sailors would pass by every year, and they would just like bag them, like hundreds of them at once. Yeah, just easy pickings.
If you come for their feathers, you do not give yourself the trouble of killing them, but lay hold of one of them and pluck the best of the feathers. You then turn the poor penguin adrift, with his skin half naked and torn off, to perish at his leisure. You take a kettle with you. Now it's a separate quote. You take a kettle with you, into which you put a penguin or two. You kindle a fire under it, and this fire is absolutely made of the unfortunate penguins themselves. Their bodies, being oily, soon produce a flame.
They're literally penguins. I just looked them up.
Yeah. Well, there's a photo. Yeah, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
There was 100,000 pairs on that island.
Here's the Great Auk. It is now covering one of our screens. There it is for the viewers. I'm a Great Auk now. Oh, no.
What?
Yeah, this one was a bit depressing. This one really, I think, makes you think how savage we were as a species.
Yep.
For most of our history. We truly were Planet of the Apes. This is the Planet of the Apes, man.
Or like legit, like action in the literal sense of the word savage. The more survival mode we were in, the more we just didn't care. We were already so dominant.
Yeah, like the fact that they were just like fucking destroying these creatures without any care in the world is a bit wild.
Directly killing them.
I mean, we technically do the similar shit nowadays, but more humane, I guess, with farming. But
I wouldn't call it more humane. I'd say it's less humane. Definitely less humane. What we do now. But
than plucking the ox feathers and then leaving them to die in the ocean.
definitely, yeah. At least they're in their natural habitat and they had a good life for most of their life until that moment. Most of the farm animals have no life. Their entire life. They suffer. Their kids get taken away from them and they get slaughtered. And they get tortured. Like a lot of them get tortured before they get not like intent. Like there's no like we're gonna torture this animal. They just inherently get tortured before their death. I think that's nothing compared to. But yeah, it's just really hard to read it, and like they didn't even use it as food, and that's really bad too. But that does happen right now too, a lot with like shark fin soup. They'll just cut the fins off and throw the sharks back in because the sharks aren't worth it. The fins are worth a lot, so and they all die like really quickly. Can't survive with their fins. Yeah. So it does happen now.
Or ivory poaching.
Yeah. But I did like the part where like it's like don't we'll get to it at the end, but it's just basically like
You can go now.
Don't blame the problems of the world on like the poachers. It's like, you just sitting there reading this book, you're the issue as well. Like yeah.
I don't
if you
think
think
that
about
was
why humans are
what they said.
so dangerous. Sorry?
I don't think that was what she said at the end of the book, was it?
If you want to think about why humans are so dangerous to other species, you can picture a poacher in Africa carrying an AK-47 or a logger in the Amazon gripping an axe. Or better still, you can picture yourself holding a book on your lap.
Yeah.
Just because inherently we're so, because I was going on the point of like what makes us so brilliant and what makes us like awesome and caring and everything is actually also the reason why we've become the destructors that we are today. So
yeah, true.
I don't know. I all the facts I know about factory farming, I hate watching this stuff and I hate reading about it. It's so really hard to read. So this is really hard to read.
Chapter 4, guys.
That's the saddest chapter. And that's one of the saddest. That's probably the saddest chapter for me.
The awkward
in terms of like
yeah,
directly like not like having to think about how sad the situation is, but just like I don't know, like very like
so direct.
Yeah, like very quick response. Yeah. Like, ooh, we're awful people. Anyways, chapter 4. This chapter discusses the extinction event that killed the dinosaurs, and argues that the aftermath of the asteroid's impact was worse than the impact itself in terms of extinction. This chapter also discusses how the ammonites, a type of mollusk, did not die during that event. Kolbert explains that this shows that in times of extreme stress, the whole concept of fitness, at least in a Darwinian sense, loses its meaning. Evolution cannot keep up with abrupt environmental changes.
Yeah, this is basically what I was talking about earlier, I think.
Yeah. Whereas humans can.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons we're so prolific across the planet.
We live everywhere.
Except for maybe the Arctic, but even then we do live there, so
yeah, and
it's not ideal.
It's getting even better for us, boys.
Yeah, this I guess is the talking where it's like the initial impact event of extraterrestrial stuff isn't the big concern. The big concern is the changes it caused to the climate and I guess the climate plus like in general just like the habitats of the species inhabiting them and how that completely undoes all of survival of the fittest because it's just who happened to evolve to who happen to evolve the traits required to survive in the new situation, because the survival of the fittest was based on the previous situation, and now that situation doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So that relates to like our, I guess, our changing of the environments nowadays, and how it's not like one impact event that's causing it, but rather there are changes to the environments and habitats of species. Which I don't know if that's very like insightful, but
yeah, it's the main theme,
yeah,
or it's like at least part of the theme of every subsequent chapter, basically.
So I want to point out another point of this book, another statement it makes is that climate change is real. And I think it points to a lot of really good evidence towards that. If you were a doubter out there.
Yeah. You watching this right now, do not doubt climate change.
Humans are having an effect.
Yeah.
Change.
yeah. Is it an effect that's gonna be a thing in the long term in terms of like the survival of the world or us? I don't know if we really know that for certain, but it is definitely causing the extinction of species and the changing of the biodiversity of the world.
It will cause a lot of suffering. Yeah, for humans.
Probably.
Definitely. All the places that like are not going to be inhabitable, like with the ocean rising and stuff like that.
Food sources are diminishing. Our resources are diminishing.
Are the oceans still increasing now? What's the increase? Ocean levels.
Yeah.
I definitely think water and food are going to be water. Canada's just in for a lot of dominate soon.
Yeah.
Or just gonna get a gun pointed at our head.
The resource war starting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we just need like a big reorganization of society at this point. I feel like we waste so much shit.
Yep.
Definitely less people. Which I think is gonna happen naturally, unfortunately.
Okay. I guess we'll talk about chapter 5. Discusses the human impacts on water in rivers and oceans by changing the chemistry of these environments, and argues that humans have done more damage than nature can repair.
In the short term.
How humans have affected, well, in the millions of years short term. Yeah.
Not in the millions of years short term, but like the argument there was more that like generally there is an effect that the Earth has on keeping things relatively consistent, and right now the rate of change that we're producing is faster than the rate of change in the other direction.
Yeah. This coincides with the introduction of the term Anthropocene, for it's the age where human actions are the dominant influence of climate and the environment.
I can't believe I just made the connection now. That the last book we read was Anthropocene Reviewed, and we found out how the term came to be in this book.
You just realized that now.
There was multiple connections. I just realized that I forgot that was called the Anthropocene Reviewed.
We're just reading about humanity, man.
Yeah, there's multiple connections to the last book. I thought.
Oh,
too.
for sure. Yeah,
that was
definitely.
neat.
Our nonfiction is on the human scale changes in living life in the Anthropocene level of discussion.
That wasn't my only option. I had some other ones that are very different from this.
Yeah, but it was good to keep on this. I didn't want to read the other ones anyways. No kidding.
I think the other ones were more interesting. I think they definitely would have been way more page turners than this. I just thought this one was the most. Yeah, like Kieran said, he picked it partly because it was the most felt like he had to read it. Most Other ones have just been like more. I don't know. They would be definitely more page turners, but
Maybe.
like something that you feel like it's good to read, good thing to know. This is a good knowledge, and it's a good thing to discuss, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
But I was surprised you picked it because I thought you were gonna pick a more interesting one, and then you picked like the least page turner. I was like, oh man, I definitely gonna see a bunch of complaints about this.
I mean, I thought this was the most interesting one of those.
Oh, I thought the feminism movement would have been really like just how far that movement's come, like from women being like their main job was just being a housewife, and like that was just so
ubiquitous.
in society.
What was the
and how they snapped out of that. And like
remember
that lady
what
like
was.
made it sound like she was like writing from God. Like it felt like she didn't even understand what she was reading was important. She didn't understand how it like took off so much, and like it took her so long to understand the impact of her own words. And like it started a revolution. Like it was crazy. The way that, I don't know, some of the description of that book was really interesting, and then the other one was about space and a guy who got fascinated with astronauts and like the drive of like kind of like the last chapter about how like humans are crazy and how we're just always exploring and we're willing to put ourselves in ridiculous situations like going across the ocean that we don't see where land is and killing ourselves just so then one day a group of humans will make it, like things like that. And like that was what that was about a bit. It was just about like how we throw ourselves at other planets and how we threw ourselves at the moon and all that went into that, and like all the astronauts and the lives of the astronauts behind, and the lives behind the astronauts that went to the moon. And the guy himself was like realizing that he shared a lot of those qualities with the astronauts. Like he fit like they all had a very similar race profile, had a lot of similar qualities, and he fit those the same race profile and qualities. And so then he's kind of like reflecting on why they were doing what they're doing, but then he's like reflecting on himself. And it was, I don't know, it sounded like a crazy book. But anyways, I definitely think there are more people. Sorry, yeah, a little bit of a side tangent for those who came to hear about the Sixth Extinction.
What do we got next here? The Anthropocene, chapter 6, I guess. Analyzing human impact on land and water, deforestation, fossil fuels emissions, and how this has added a lot of CO2 to the environment and how it's killing species.
The next few chapters are all related to emissions and oceans warming and acidification, basically.
What were these chapters called? I can't remember. Let me bring up my...
Well, I remember the coral chapter well.
Yeah, there was Welcome to the Anthropocene. What was Dropping Acid?
That was the coral one.
Chapter 6?
Or maybe that was
7.
the vent.
Sea Around Us is 6.
One. Yeah.
Dropping, yeah. The coral one was... Yeah. It's interesting hearing about the coral, because I didn't really know about how the coral was created before. It's like made by like little monsters.
Community of small organisms.
Yeah.
I don't understand this. So they come together and form another organism?
They basically die on top of each other over and over again.
Which forms another organism? Which is coral.
Yeah, I'm still not really sure how it works, but
yeah, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, it wasn't really explained, but
I think it was like I thought it was like they all like worked together to build it. Like they're creating the shell basically.
But then what's the mating process? That's not like a bunch of organisms working in unison like that. That is coral, which is a living thing.
I don't think it is coral actually doing that.
I thought that's what she said, but I was really confused. Like, I think what you're saying makes more sense logically, but
like I thought it was little creatures that make the coral basically, and then we basically called the coral them the coral. like little mollusks, I think,
So odd.
as far as I remember. Yeah, basically this one was talking about how the rate basically that they can build the coral is based on the acidity of the waters. And as the acidity of the waters goes up, like they basically go on workers' strikes and are like, I refuse to build
Yeah,
under these
there's
conditions.
there's the coral. There's two organisms working together.
Yeah.
And then one of them starts reacting to the inability to produce limestone by producing a bunch of oxygen, so that the coral freaks out and ejects the other organism, and so that what causes them to bleach, and also they just stop growing at the same time because of that. Yeah, the concentration of carbon in the atmosphere uses up the molecules needed to calcify in the ocean.
Yes, the calcification is the big thing.
Yeah. And there's also a little bit of a side note about Biosphere 2, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Arizona lab that was created in the 80s or the 70s to mimic an experiment on, or to see if we could build a Earth-like atmosphere and biomes on another planet. So Earth is Biosphere 1, and this facility was called Biosphere 2. But it failed because as soon as one thing went out of balance, everything went out of balance. And the scientists that were living in Biosphere 2 were starving, and the ocean was acidifying, and everything was failing. So kind of potentially a bad omen for the years to come for us.
Are we really that surprised that the first
Yeah.
experiment ever failed? No. Like that's pretty standard,
It
pretty
didn't
bog
seem
standard.
very optimistic going into it.
But yeah.
It is pretty sad though. It is quite sad with the coral. She emphasized how ancient coral is as a species.
Survived a
How
lot of
many,
shit.
how many millions of years?
How is it the case that coral has survived so long when we had that period of like the gases in the water because it was so acidic? Like the water was literally like purple or
Was it a
green.
lot? Was it around at that time?
I don't know, but then if it was, then why is it one of the most ancient things?
Maybe it just keeps coming back. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it died off and came back. Yeah, there's your thing. After we'll kill off all the coral, but don't worry, it'll be back in 2 million years.
Really sad. I've never actually seen a coral reef before
No.
with my
Really?
eyes. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
Again,
We
I
gotta-
gotta do that soon.
Didn't you go to Hawaii?
Yeah, I've been there.
You never went snorkeling, or
I went snorkeling. But I guess I just didn't. The location I went to didn't have like
a
a
lot of
vivid
coral?
reef. Yeah. But and if I did, I have seen. I guess I've seen the bleached coral before, off of the resort beach. All the pretty sad. Okay, so
Chapter 7. That's pretty much that's what we just did. 8 is discussing effects of global warming, and now it doesn't only affect polar bears, but also affects other living beings such as trees. This is where they talk about the size area. The number of species in an area is linked to the size of it, and global warming is shrinking the areas where species can survive, and this leads to predictions of just how many species will go extinct by 2050. And everyone seems to disagree with these, including all the scientists.
yeah.
Cool though with the plots.
Trees up the
Yeah,
mountain.
how the trees moved up the mountain, like the not obviously actually moving, but
Oh yeah,
moved up the mountainside and how just quickly it happened. It's like super shocked by that. 8 feet a year.
That was really crazy. And the point there being that in very diverse environments, species become so specialized at what they do that any small change in their environment causes them to either go extinct or to immediately leave the area, in search of a more similar environment to what they had before.
Yeah. I feel like species that are that specialized though to the environment, like the environment's gonna change at some point, like, and then you're fucked. Like,
Yeah.
like you've evolutionarily fucked yourself. Like I don't know about you guys, but those species were meant to die.
The CrossFitters are gonna win in the world, bro.
The what?
You better not
They can
just
adapt.
you better not just lift weights, bro.
You better not just look away.
How's your cardio, yo?
Bro, you're only using your back muscles. Extinct.
Bro, what do you expect, man? You only use your back muscles.
Disrespect.
Disrespectful.
I also this is a chapter I mentioned just how non-diverse like some parts of Canada are. Wasn't it saying like there's only 20 different trees in our boreal forest?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we have like the least diverse
goodness.
forests in like the whole world.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I think we have the least diverse forests in like the
Yeah.
whole world.
It stretches almost billions of acres and represents roughly a quarter of all the intact forests on Earth. Across it, you will only find about 20 species of tree. I did not know that there were only 20 species, and just how I didn't think there was that many, anyways. But just how different that is from other parts of the world.
Yeah, well, I mean it's funny because we can like identify like every different kind of tree.
Yeah.
But sorry, we can.
Yeah, it's like we know all the different trees here pretty much, you know.
I think it's funny that we can't though. Like I think I think you would recognize all the names, but like I think it's funny that like me and you probably couldn't actually go and like name every single tree in the forest. When there's only 20.
We can name most of the big ones, you know. The pines.
The vines.
The vines.
Hey, it's got a pine coat on it.
Yeah, never thought about it that much. You might go to a stretch of forest and you see like a bear, and that's the only bear probably around at that point. The biggest mammal there. And then
I wonder if as the climate warms, whether we'll have more different species of trees in here in Canada.
I think so.
Has the temperature in BC been increasing every year? Like I feel like it
Yes.
hasn't.
I think
I feel
we
like
noticed that fast. Would we? Maybe like
over the last 20 years, like
well, if you look at the frequency of record-breaking days on a day-to-day basis, and also just average temperature. Yeah, like let's just like if I look at average temperature in Vancouver graph.
let me see. Yeah, I haven't looked at
Average annual temperature
by month. No, by year. Temperature annual data for Vancouver.
On the same page.
I don't know. Over the last 20 years, it literally hasn't changed like at all.
yeah, I think it's not so much
in the maximum, the mean, like they're all of them in the last.
Yeah, the mean is
since
always
98. It's like the same.
Yeah, I think it's like extreme of events and temperatures. So I think like this wouldn't be a good example because it's
Since 98, at least, that we have recordings for.
Tell them this one.
What about global temperature? Global temperature. Were we measuring the average global temperature in 1901? Yeah, looks like it's pretty. It's going up. It's going up and up. Maybe it's just not affecting Vancouver too much. Because given I'm looking at this graph, and it would. This graph shows that the temperature in the last 20 years has gone up a lot, and the average temperature in Vancouver has not changed at all. So
Yep.
I don't know, maybe we're a bit unique. I'm not sure.
Well,
or whether this
how
is...
closer to the ocean would make sense. That greatly reduces the fluctuations. Sure.
Right, yeah, it's a regulator.
From my experience, what I remember as a kid, we have more extreme events, but I don't know. It's not very scientific, but just like, and we also have new terms every year, like atmospheric river, and like
Which?
atmospheric river.
The hell is that?
Remember in 2021 in the fall, like a bunch of highways got washed out in BC, and they called it the atmospheric river.
That's a new term.
No, I didn't. I never heard that.
Heat dome.
Yeah, heat dome.
I've heard heat dome, but
It was in June 2021. It hit 49.6 degrees Celsius in BC. Hottest place in BC that day.
And then Lytton died.
We got fucked multiple times in a row.
And now it's gone.
Yep.
wait, which?
Lytton, BC, the town.
Yeah.
It was 50 degrees Celsius during the heat dome. And then it got destroyed in a fire like a couple weeks after that.
Brutal, dude. Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. So where were we?
We were at chapter 8, 9.
9.
Yeah, might not be able to adapt fast enough. Breaking up forests into smaller area leads to fewer species because the area can't support them. Pretty much what we've been talking about, I guess.
There. Chapter 10 discusses the introduction of killing mechanisms such as bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Explains how a species may not be able to adapt fast enough to these invaders, may in fact be killed outright. Many of these invaders are being brought by humans due to commerce and travel.
Yeah, and I remember it mentioned how because the speed of travel has increased so much, like where more species are becoming like migrating with us that can survive. Oh, that was kind of interesting.
We're basically creating another Pangea, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool connection there.
Way to look at it.
Yeah, and it talked about how our global diversity is greatly decreasing, but our local diversity is greatly increasing. Which I never thought about that when I thought of all invasive species. Our local diversity is increasing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't I know it every time I get hay fever in Victoria. Freaking
Yeah.
every species of plant is here in this town, and I'm allergic to a handful of them. But all of them just fuck me over every time. They come in bloom. Wouldn't have happened if it was all native species.
Yeah.
So
That's so bad. That's
Yeah.
so bad. Even if you like gain immunity to a few of them, you're still
Yeah.
screwed.
I'm so screwed. All it takes is one of them. One invasive species. It's not even invasive. It's just planted here. But
Is this
That's also
which was the one about the bats?
this is about the bats, I think.
L for the bats.
Very
This-
big.
That was bad.
We got the bat background because the bats
Yeah.
chapter. The bats are all dying in North America. They're all getting killed by the white nose. They're all snorting cocaine
Yeah.
and dying.
The little brown bats.
They're not actually snorting cocaine, but they have like.
We're
this
on the
white
we're on the
powder.
rhino one. Sorry.
No, the rhino one's next.
Next
Oh,
one.
sorry. 10. Yeah, the pictures. There's a really good photo on this one, Dylan.
Oh, was there? Show it. Put it up to the camera.
You won't be able to see it. It's too small.
No, show it.
No, you can
Just show it in the camera. Just shove it onto the camera. Oh, that's bright. Oh yeah.
It's gonna hopefully adjust.
It's really
Oh
hard.
yeah. You can kind of see
So-
that.
Those photos from left to right or right to left, depending on I don't know how you're seeing it, are
Yeah, we're reading.
one
it.
year after another. 2009, 2010, 2011.
In the same corner of the same cave.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You can see how the left one's just like covered and.
Like
Yeah.
thousands of them, and then the next year there's like 100, and then like after year after 0.
Yeah, it was sad. One of the oldest caves. It's a natural cave.
Dude, that whole scene sounded like it was from some like pandemic video game.
When they go what?
When they're trying to go through that like door, the
Oh, yeah,
locked door into the
step on them.
cave.
Yeah.
They're just like stepping on dead bats as they're like, it's Jesus. One of them makes a joke.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't step on any dead bats on your way out. And she's like, for a second I thought, and then I was like, oh, it's a joke, because there's no way you won't.
Yeah. good joke.
It's like Jesus. Yeah, well, that was because like what was the fungus again or
Yeah.
It's a fungus.
Fungus man.
But yeah, and then she says that in Europe, the fungus just infects all the bats, but they're just chilling. They're just
Yeah.
evolved with it. So,
yeah.
but very morbidly interesting how the fungus actually works. It wakes them up from hibernation.
Oh yeah, it makes them use all their energy.
Yeah, and there's nothing to catch. There's no bugs.
Oh yeah, there's two theories. One, they like it makes them use.
It irritates them. One's the theory is that it irritates them.
Yeah, one is that the theory is it irritates them. Another thing is that dries out their skin, which causes them to become dehydrated, which causes both of them, cause them to wake up, and then they go search for food or water, and then they die because it's the middle of winter.
Yeah.
That's like a very example of like, holy crap, they're so sensitive. Like, you just make the bats wake up in the middle of hibernation, make them a little thirsty, and they're done. That's it.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy that you can literally just have a fungus that makes you wake up during hibernation and the whole species dies.
Like if you just put like a loud like blowhorn on for like 2 days in a bat cave, in that bat cave, you just kill them all.
Yeah.
They just all die.
Yeah. Bro, they've been working out them legs too much, man.
Do you have to keep irritating them though?
You
For
probably
them
have to
to
keep
really go
irritating
back.
them. They
They
might
just
Well,
wake up and there's up.
then they go back.
No, I think it has to. I
a
thought that
constant
So you
air
said it
horn.
irritates them, but I thought that one of them makes them like take some of their nutrients or something. I'm not sure how that worked, and I thought one of them definitely dehydrated, so it made them have to go.
Yeah,
I think if you just woke them up,
They
they
just
just
go
go back
back.
to bed.
Yeah. let's
So
go
I
back.
think the fungus, one of them actually made them like be hungry, and one of them made them thirsty. That was the
like,
theories.
Like one of them, the theory was that it was eating at their skin.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I
It's a
think the
constant
reason it made them hungry and thirsty, which woke them up from hibernation and made them want to go hunt, but there wasn't anything to hunt, so
They
If they're
die.
not-
Yeah.
yeah, they die because
Yeah, one theory was hungry.
they needed
there's-
to be under hibernation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then their sociability, which was an
Yeah.
evolutionary advantage, became a huge disadvantage for them.
Was there something about them getting all like hot and bothered too? One of them.
Really? I don't remember that.
I
Remember there
remember
was
that. I
one
just remember one that was
fungus.
like cuddling the group of dead bats.
Yeah.
That was like a
Nuzzling them.
really sad image.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, if you bothered them for like 2 days and they have to be awake for 2 days, then they would get hungry or thirsty in those 2 days. That's what I was thinking. And they would all die.
Just one in there.
Start dancing.
Just fucking clap for 3 days and
Yeah.
you've murdered a whole species.
Down there.
Shut up!
You're gonna kill us all, bro! You monster!
Can you imagine someone had like a party around that cave and then just like
Killed.
just found out they just caused the extinction of like 300,000 bats?
Jeez.
I'm sure they have a pretty good tolerance for sound in their hibernation state, but
They must, yeah.
Not if you're having like a festival outside.
yeah, we're at festival.
Yeah.
You're at Icelandia.
If you're at Rifflandia, dude.
Burning Man, Bat Cave.
Burning Man in the cave. Those bats would have no chance.
It's over, bro.
But yeah, then they would go to they would leave and go to other caves, because it's interesting that they would do that. Like they'd be accepted into other caves and other groups of bats. But that was a huge disadvantage for them.
Hell
And
for
the
the
theory is
rats.
that the original cave with the fungus had over 200,000 visitors a year,
Yeah, that was sad too.
brought in by humans, most likely.
Or by human causes, at least.
Yeah. The next chapter is the rhino chapter.
Sticking your hand up their bussies to artificially inseminate them because they're all extinct at the zoos. Yeah, this is a bit of a weird one.
Right.
Yeah. Like, what was the opening? Is like talking about this woman who's got her like arm shoved right up the ass,
yeah.
trying to artificially inseminate her. So I guess this is the point where it starts talking about how humans are trying their best to like keep the species alive and stuff.
Oh man, this was such a big L too. This is the part where it's the captive breed. So they had a bunch of these rhinos, and then they decided they're gonna go. They're having troubles, so they reduced to a few hundred animals. So there was conservationists that gathered in Singapore to try to develop a strategy. The plan they came up with, among other things, was to establish a captive breeding program. 40 rhinos were caught, and 7 of them were sent to the zoos in the U.S. It got off to a disastrous start. Over a span of less than 3 weeks, 5 rhinos at the breeding facility in Peninsular Malaysia succumbed to the disease. 10 animals were caught.
Oh, right. It's because they were feeding them hay and not.
And then I was just getting to that part. And then in the States, the mortality rate was even higher. The zoos were feeding the animals hay, but it turns out these rhinos cannot live off hay. By the time anyone figured this out, only more than half of them died. 4 to 7 of them died. Fucking just awful.
It's so bad.
How do you not notice these animals are dying? Because I guess.
How do you not know what they eat?
Yeah.
I guess they thought, yeah. I can understand how they make that mistake, but
I don't know. I wouldn't think to feed a rhino hay, man.
I wouldn't think it would kill them, though, off the top.
Yeah.
I don't
Must be
know,
fresh.
man.
Probably a little more research into it.
Fresh leaves and branches.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. That was pretty stupid. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just for me to question these conservationists' educations, but like,
I am doing it right now. Awful.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit.
You fuck up that badly, everyone can judge you. You're if I know it's an idiot snake, then you know what I mean. Like if any average person on the street can be like, that's a stupid thing to do, everyone can judge them.
So next time you're at a bar and you meet someone new, be like, hey, what do you think? What do you think would happen if you fed rhinos hay?
Only hay.
Only hay. That's your pickup line at the bar. Here.
Hey. No. Talking about hey.
It's not about
What do you think would happen? What do you think would happen?
bro.
You've had hay to rhinos. I need an answer right now.
Jesus Christ. I got secondhand embarrassment. You're talking to a fucking ghost right now. Oh no.
Oh, and then there was like there's just so many digs at humans in this book, and this is another one where like there was a couple times where they mentioned the last known animal to exist somewhere else in Vietnam was killed by a poacher in the winter of 2000. Like the multiple times I feel like that was said. The last known animal was killed by some poacher. The last known auk was like some dude went there and killed it for 7 pounds. Like that stuff just kills me. It's just so sad, man. Like these poachers are just awful people, man. Awful. And also, I didn't realize rhino horns are used as a party drug in Chinese, a high-end party drug. But they're made out of keratin, so I was thinking,
Yeah, like what do you get out of that?
I don't know, but I'm sure it does something. But then it's rhino horns, which are made of keratin, like your fingernails, have long been used in traditional Chinese medicine, but in recent years have become even more sought after as a high-end party drug at clubs in Southeast Asia. Powdered horn is snorted like cocaine.
Yeah, yeah, that was.
You guys hear what I'm thinking? Are you guys thinking what I'm thinking?
What?
Fingernail snorting?
Yeah. why would people snort their own fingernails?
What do you get out? What does that do for you though?
Yeah.
What does snorting keratin do?
You don't think it's not like the shark fin soup where it has no taste.
What? I'm gonna look up what does snorting keratin do.
Well, let me see rhino horn.
Interesting one. Yo, boys, next party, we're grinding up fingernails. We're all clipping our toenails in a communal thing, and then we're grinding them up. We're not.
Fluent Vietnamese people are snorting rhino horns.
What does it do, though? Does it say?
It's a way to cure
absolutely nothing.
It's a way to cure hangovers, even though they think it's a way to cure hangovers, even though there's absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Goodness, so we're killing animals for literally.
Bro, give me some of that rhino horn.
Yeah, apparently it does absolutely nothing. So
nice. Dude, it's like dude. I don't think the edible's hitting it. We should have another edible. Just keep snorting these fucking toenails, bro.
You just go through $100,000 rhino horn.
Dude, it didn't do anything. Right, and there's the Neanderthals. Possible influence of humans in the extinction of the Neanderthals. Through interbreeding, the human gene became dominant and the Neanderthals became extinct. Except for a few gene remnants in modern humans. Pretty much everyone's 4 to 6% Neanderthal.
Another thing in the last chapter before we discussed the Neanderthals.
Oh yeah.
I thought the Moa story was really sad, and how were the cause of the megafaunas all dying.
Oh, the megafaunas, yeah.
Yeah, that was the last chapter. And I think it's us, and how with the Moas in New Zealand, when the Maori reached New Zealand around the time of Dante, they found 9 species of moa living on the North and South Islands. By the time European settlers arrived in the early 1800s, not a single moa was to be seen. What remained were huge middens of moa bones, as well as the ruins of large outdoor ovens, leftovers of great big bird barbecues. A recent study concluded that the moas were probably eliminated in a matter of decades. A phrase survives in the Maori referring obliquely to the slaughter. Kua Nagaro I T Nagaro O T Moa, or lost as the moa is lost. Very sad and very good evidence that humans did that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I thought that evidence is pretty
Yeah.
convincing that like pretty much all of the big creatures were like the mammoths and stuff and everything were hunted to extinction by us.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how like they said just even like a group of 10 people killing one big animal every year is like,
Yeah, because they have no predators, and so they've circumvented like the problems by like it takes them so long to raise and give birth to young that the only reason that they can survive as a species is because they have no predators.
exactly, yeah.
And then we are predators, and now they all die because they've fucked up evolutionarily, man, and then they died. You know, that's all there is to it. They really just bulked everything way too hard, and you can't be doing that.
It's interesting right now with grizzly bears, they're debating opening up the hunt again for grizzly bears.
Oh, really?
Well, right now it's legal for indigenous to use it for ceremonial reason, and I think for hunting anyways. But
It
they
is
want
legal or isn't?
it is legal for
Okay.
indigenous, but they want to open it up again for. They used to have indigenous people used to have a business out of it. So they'd like invite like rich poachers, like rich people from around the world, trophy hunters, to come and hunt grizzlies with them, and like they charge a lot of money, obviously.
Yeah.
And they want to open that up again, and saying it's the right
For the indigenous people to do that with other people.
Yeah. But one of the arguments for that is that apparently there's an excess of grizzly bears right now in some parts of BC at least. And they are causing a lot of havoc, and it's like this weird situation where they're like greatly protected, but then they're also like over. So there's no predators, right? So
Yeah, I feel like that kind of illustrates the problem with trying to like keep things the way that they are, you know? Some thought that came to me the other day was that like it's really weird that like all the conservatives are not conservationists. You know? Like similar words but like political versus trying to conserve nature, but like in some sense it almost seems like a ridiculous folly to try and keep things the way that they are in nature, you know? Like nature's bound to change at least, you know? Like is it our duty to be not our duty, but like should we be trying to balance nature in terms of like killing grizzly bears and keeping their numbers like the right amount so that they're not fucking with everything else? Like is that the right thing to do to try and keep it balanced, or is it not? Like I don't know. Is there even like a right or wrong way to be influencing it? Like I'm not too sure.
Well, if the alternative is just to not think about it. And if that was the case, then there's a likely scenario where grizzly bears are just extinct. No. So everyone's just hunted
definitely
to extinction.
done.
So if you're okay with that just happening to any species, then I guess you could argue for just a hands-off approach. But because it's in quotations unnatural, I don't know if it's unnatural what we're doing is like hunting to extinction, but definitely it's unnatural the way that we're acidifying the oceans, etc. It's like you have to intervene unnaturally if you want to keep the status quo. So
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm like is it valuable to keep the status quo? I mean, in some cases it probably is. In some cases it probably isn't. But or I guess I'm like specifically just looking at the brown bears right now. Like starting as like if we're starting like where we're at right now as like a baseline. Like now they're overpopulated, right? So now they're thinking of opening it up for season skin, but in some way, I don't know. It's like is trying to keep them down so they're not fucking with everything else. Like I don't know.
Well, the
It's
approach to other species is to have limited hunting periods.
Mhm.
Like you get so many tickets for hunting per year. Like there's like 100 tickets for grizzly bears a year. You know what I mean? Like for different species.
Yeah,
Or,
that makes sense to me. Like I mean, like I agree that it's probably like it's probably valuable to do that, but it's more just like I guess I'm just questioning like the like we're basically playing God at this point in one way or another, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's pretty inarguable that it's a loss to have so many species go extinct at this rate. It's unnatural. And it's definitely not good for that to be happening. Like the world's going to look pretty ugly and bad in the not too distant future. And yeah, it'll recover. The world will recover from that at some point. Who knows how long that will take? But I think delaying that or avoiding that is worthwhile. And part of that is like keeping species that wouldn't normally be going extinct alive as long as possible.
yeah. Also, the process of monitoring these different species and like trying to prevent them from going extinct is making us learn a lot more about like why species go extinct and like what's happening to the world.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of different levels of detail, which will inevitably help ourselves. Our own us facing extinction.
Yeah. With that example, do you guys think that they should reopen the hunting for grizzlies with a certain amount of tickets and stuff, or no?
For that reason, I don't like the idea of the indigenous opening it so then they can make money off of like. I just don't like the idea of trophy hunting.
Well, you wouldn't, I guess, but
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's really complicated. It's just weird when we're playing the point of God where it's like.
Yeah, I think if from a completely like logistic standpoint, fine, I guess, because if you understand the population, you're already doing it for every other animal, unless you're going to ban hunting altogether.
yeah, I feel like it makes sense to me.
Neanderthals, we read the chapter summary. You guys have anything to say on it?
Dude, we fucked them out of existence, bro.
Bred with them.
There was a good picture of a Neanderthal who's been given a shave and a new suit.
Yeah. Because, that was after I was talking about how the original depictions of the Neanderthal were the stereotype hunched over cave dweller. That was really stupid.
Hunched over cave dweller. Hunched over. Dude, they were gamers, bro. They were gamers, man. They're my people.
Your average WoW player.
Your average WoW player.
But yeah, then like the counter to that, which is the accepted, is now that, or someone said, which is a bit of an exaggeration, that you wouldn't recognize them if they were in the New York City subway. But, and then that followed with a picture
some
of
the crazy.
How scary things the New York subways, man.
That's true. But yeah, there was a picture of a Neanderthal in a suit, just to illustrate that point.
Mm. Yeah. Goodbye, Neanderthals. Neanderthals.
Well,
You guys got any feelings on the whole thing that happened with them? Or I guess it was kind of interesting with like guess that was the next chapter. I think that there was like that museum that had like the plaque that everyone was walking over that had the like all the different species that have gone extinct, and then like it starts with like the earlier on, and then it goes larger and larger and larger.
Yeah, that was in the last chapter, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it was the last chapter. Yeah.
Which I have to admit, pretty disappointing as a concluding
Mm.
book.
Do you guys think that there's like some big like ebb and flow of life like mathematically in the universe, or
I mean,
is it all just like random events, kind of? Like it seems like there's like
it could be
more
the same thing.
species over time in the history of the world. Like each extinction goes, and we get more, and then more. And is there going to be more, and then more? Is there ever going to be like every extinction going to give way to more species?
It's an interesting question. Definitely seems that way from what we know. It's impossible to say. And if the universe really is infinite, then the randomness does become predictable, because it's like a perfect, it's an infinite number, it's an infinite sample size. So
Hmm.
it's like this would have to be happening somewhere else. We know the sun's going to explode in a certain amount of time, which is not that long in terms of the history of the universe. So we're probably not a special case. I don't know where I'm going with this, but
Yeah.
but, yeah.
As it goes, do you think we're the first?
Do I think we're the first to do it?
Yeah. Or I guess we're not technically the first, but like we're the first to get to this stage in evolution, I guess, or to reach to the stars. We did go to the moon. That's pretty.
I guess no in this universe.
Like, how unlikely is it for a species as intelligent as we are? And we have no idea like how we fare in intelligence-wise to the rest of the universe either. So
Yeah, I don't know. It's all just speculation. There's really
Well, the
nothing you
universe
can
is
say about it, but
complete guess.
100% likely.
Yeah. If the universe is infinite, then it's 100% likely that there's something smarter than us out there. Like near 100%. Actually, is it 100%?
It's 100%.
It's 100%.
is
It's
it?
always it's infinite. So there's always one more.
Yeah, true.
More hotel room. So
Yeah.
I guess if the universe is infinite, yeah.
But
Even if
also,
it's not. Even
well,
if it's not. It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
as big as it.
It's
we can observe.
It's expanding though at the same time. So
But Kieran, you played Outer Wilds.
it's true. I know.
We won't talk about Outer Wilds. Anyone watching,
no spoilers.
You should go
All
play Outer Wilds.
I agree. All we can say, all Dylan and I can say, is that stop what you're doing right now. Purchase the game and play it.
If I had a good laptop, I would do it. It's so painful to use.
Bro, you've been saying that for 5 years, bro.
I know. It's on the next list.
We gotta pitch in and buy him a laptop.
This is this important.
Yeah, after I buy an apartment.
After you buy an apartment? Oh my god. Bro.
Just kidding. If I get some like random, if this podcast makes, that'll be the first thing I spend this money on.
Oh
this
my,
podcast.
that's even more unlikely.
Dude. I'll have to toss the keys to this channel over to you so you can start doing all the monetization, because I'm not doing anything. We're just vibing.
Oh well, no, I'm not worried about that, and because we don't have any viewers, so the next steps are promoting our channel more. But I talked to Kieran
Follow
about
us
that.
on Spotify and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. I mean X.
I'd rather not go through Facebook because I don't like doing that type of stuff. I don't like self promotion, period. But which is why, anyway, that's a tangent. But I'm interested in politics, but I can never see myself being a politician because I just don't like self promotion.
Fair, same.
But I think the best way of doing it would be promoting our channel on like the subreddits of like the book that we're reading.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, but I did talk to Kieran about that, and he says I don't think the quality's there yet. We've had a debate multiple times, I think, as a pod too, and I agree. I think, but it's just a tough balance. You don't want to like lose viewers.
I think some of our Mistborn ones were good.
Yeah, maybe when we start Mistborn 2.
We're getting better for sure, but it's just like it's gonna take. Yeah, we can only improve so fast, just by practice, just by doing the same podcast every week.
Oh, I'll ask Saoirse how we were today.
Sorry?
Okay,
I'll ask Saoirse how we were today.
Yara watched a couple episodes.
Oh, she watched it? She's watching right now? Or part of it?
Yara subscribed, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yara subscribed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, and she watched one of them?
Yeah, I don't know if she watched the whole thing, but
I
she
doubt
said
it.
she did.
Yeah.
Cool. They're a bit long.
Is our first subscriber?
Since I've started streaming, yeah.
Yara.
When you guys got anything else for the
final chapter?
Sixth Extinction, final chapter, conclusion? There was like no conclusion to this book.
Yeah, no conclusion at all.
It very much like I remember I was listening to it at lunch as I was coming in like 2 days ago. Like I'm walking in the door and I'm like, and then it just like ends on this one sentence and I'm like, that's it? There's no like that's the end?
It's like I don't know what's going on, but it's inarguable that we're causing the loss of diversity. And ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely was a bit lackluster. I don't know. She's a journalist, if that means anything.
Yeah.
Not like a
Which
novelist.
checks out.
I hear her preach.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And like you said, she doesn't have that like authority to make like a very incredible, like accurately, fine-tuned statement. But I think that she is the perfect one to read. I think a journalist is what you want for a book like this because there's so many different types of people she talked to. If you had one of those people that she met in the book to write this book, like it would have been really boring because it would have been on one thing, or like I just think it.
Yeah, it wasn't too boring, or it wasn't too biased. It didn't feel like she was trying to preach or anything. So
yeah, it was the right level of everything. I think I can't really criticize it.
Sweet, nonfiction does well again.
Another win for the nonfiction column.
I'm always waiting for the biggest roast on my books to come from the nonfiction, but you guys are so nice. You guys are just, I don't know if you're just being nice to me or if you're just.
No, I liked it. I just don't know if I want to read more nonfiction.
I understand. These like
I don't know if you guys do either, given that I was the first one to finish reading this one.
I said my reasons for that, but like we are going to be doing this podcast indefinitely, and this is the only reading I do, and so that's part of the reason. Is like, yeah, I wish I had more time for reading, but I also that's part of it is that I want to read some nonfiction in my life because I think it's important to get knowledge from books that are not as abstract as fiction. So I want to read nonfictions in my book for knowledge, and that's part of it. And that's not enough of a reason to do that on this podcast because that's sharing my responsibility that I put on myself with you guys. But it's the second part, which is the greater part, is discussing these things with you guys. And I think there's a lot to gain from fiction, but there's also a bit that is missing from fiction, and there's definitely a lot missing from nonfiction. But I think that's good to have a bit of both, even if it's just the 10% of our podcast. But
You guys got anything else in the last chapter of this book, Sixth Extinction? Any closing thoughts? Since our last nonfiction book, we gave every chapter a rating. What's your rating for this book? Out of
For this
10.
book?
Out of 10. Or out of how many
for a
how many
nonfiction book,
bats out of how many bats?
How many 10 bats? Out of 10 bats, I will give this book 7.7 bats out of 10.
yeah, I went from 8. I was going 8, and I was going 7, and then I reflected on. I was like, this is the number 1 book in the New York Times. This is the number 1.
You can't let that influence you.
I know, but then I was thinking, why would they rate it that high? And it's like, because this book is very effective in delivering like what it's trying to deliver in like a readable manner, and for that reason, I'm giving it an 8. The 2 missing points, just some of the writing and how it isn't like a very good page turner book, but I don't even know if that's possible with this type of material.
Dude, I was trying to think of excuses to give it lower than that. I just don't have any.
Oh, boom! Persuade.
Like it's probably like an 8. It's probably like an 8.
Ah,
like
look at us.
I find normally when I finish a book, I'm very like critical of certain aspects of it, and I'm like, oh, I really didn't like this, or like this didn't really make that much sense, or but it's really hard to criticize this one, I think, just because it's like it's not super interesting, but like it's getting across like the point that it's trying to get across, you know? And it could be a bit more to the point in some parts. Like I think some of the storytelling was a bit long-winded when it didn't need to be, but that's also kind of the style of this book. I don't know. Yeah, it could have been shorter in some parts. It could have made some more, could have provided a bit more evidence for some things. But overall, like yeah, it was an enjoyable read in the second 2/3 of it, I think. And then the first third, I think it was only not as enjoyable for me because I was being cynical about it.
Revise my rating because of a nitpick to
Oh,
a
good
9,
lord.
a 9 out of 12 because of the imperial system. Because you like
Oh yeah.
the first opening
Yeah.
statement of this book is because most Americans understand feet and the imperial system. I'm going to use that, and I was like, you can't be starting like that. And then so many Latin names at the same time. Just pick either be scientific or be not scientific. Don't be in the middle. And I skipped the Latin names every time I saw them.
Boom!
I gave up on the Latin
Roasted.
names. I gave up on the Latin names every time, and I was like, "Fuck this, man."
I listened to them all, so I couldn't skip them.
Yeah. So I didn't revise 9 out of 12. That would be 7.5 out of 10. So the lost 0.2. Yeah. Yeah. Lost 0.2 out
Savage.
of
Look
10.
at this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What was your high and low book? But first, who do you think's gonna die next chapter?
Who do you think's gonna die?
We already
next?
discussed that. I said I think we're gonna die. You guys don't think we're gonna die. So
No.
Probably like a beetle in the rainforest is probably dying right now.
Probably
Just died.
an ant.
Yeah.
I think the amphibians are all done.
Oh, it's an interesting thought I had the other day is that we're very much like ants. I was driving to work the other day, and we're all just like driving in cars to our like things. And oh yeah, there's another thing that was brought up here is that we're like in the last part they were talking about how we're different than apes, right? And like the apes in tests are more intelligent than children, right? But like the thing that we have that they don't have is understanding social signals and the whole community aspect of things and being able to work together.
And teaching.
Yeah. So I was just like, yeah, I don't know. Society feels like a big ant farm.
I think the phones are greatly influencing that feeling.
The phones.
Yeah, just people on their phones. People are so like.
Mm.
When I think of what you're saying of ants, I see what you're saying about the driving, but I think more of like people just are so like they don't notice anything. They just have a daily path and they go about it every single
Yeah,
day.
yeah. We're so conditioned to do the thing that we're doing that we don't really question why we're doing it.
Yeah, but like and also
Like
like
I go to
people
work every day and I'm not really like questioning why I'm doing it, you know?
We go
But,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess we've
Yeah.
always had that, but I think with phones now, it's like people are like often like half the people I see walking around are on their phones while they're freaking walking, and so like they don't even notice things around them. Like the Neanderthal on the subway, like that wouldn't be noticed, man. These days, like people don't notice shit nearly as much as they because people are always on their phones, and then like everyone I see
I don't know
that's
if I
sitting.
really agree with that too much. That the phones are like a big problem. Maybe for kids and stuff, but I don't know. I feel like I'm not.
I
I
think
don't
it's an issue, man.
I don't feel like I'm walking around and everyone's just staring at their phones all the time and not paying attention. Like that doesn't seem like I don't experience that.
You just like look around at people that are especially that are still, and like see that everyone's on their phone.
Yeah, I don't notice
Well,
everyone on the
strangers,
I
months.
don't see people on their phones really.
Mhm.
I mean, like I do, but like they're also aware of their surroundings. Like it's not like
Yeah.
19 whatever and everyone's just like not noticing everything happening around them.
I find the workplace it's different, but like when I'm walking around, I find people are more distracted, and like
Maybe.
also the
Oh, yeah.
homeless issue, like people are a lot less like curious, almost like there's just so many weird things that happen that like people
Well,
aren't like.
that's kind of what I'm saying is how we it feels like we're all so conditioned to do the thing that we're doing and go along with like the oh yeah, make money and then try and buy a house and then do X and have you know like
Mhm.
Measuring yourself against everyone else, like the timeline of events that should happen.
and then I was also thinking how it relates to like Children of Time and like the ant farms and stuff.
I think the politicians are
All part of the machine.
the spiders.
Yeah. All those
I think it's I
spiders.
would, yeah. Anyways, for the end of the podcast, or we have anything else to say about this glorious book that got a very high rating by Mustad?
Surprisingly high rating.
Or is that all?
Yeah, I would recommend if someone was looking for something like this because it's a very seems unbiased, just the right, convincing, and
Kind of depressing, but
kind of depressing.
What were you expecting?
I was
when you read a book called The
lot more
Sixth Extinction?
I was expecting it to be a lot more depressing
I
than
thought
it
it was
actually
more
was.
depressing.
So, and people were saying online when I was trying to figure out which book to pick of Ryland's that it was super depressing.
Mm.
But in some ways, it made me more hopeful because the world probably isn't going to end. It just, a lot of the species will. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what I got from it.
All right, should we end it there?
let's end it there.
This was Books on Tap. Next week, we'll be coming in with fantasy again. And we haven't decided what book we're reading yet. But the choices are between The First Law by Joe Abercrombie, the Malazan series, Assassin's Apprentice, and what was the last one? The Fifth Season. And if we don't decide on any of those, we'll be doing some Brando standalones, but I think we will not choose those. I think we'll go with one of those 4. But
Yeah, we'll get one of those 4.
All right.
we'll be back next week. We will be back next week. It's not going to be another 3-week hiatus, I
No,
think.
we will be back next week.
Unless you got some vacation plans, Dylan.
No, dude, I'm not allowed to take vacations. According to
Really?
me. According to me.
Why?
I'll probably take one. I know I am allowed to take vacations. It's just like, I don't know, I just moved on to like a new project, and so I don't like there's like crossover time with the other team that's moving off of it, so you kind of need the learnings and stuff. Anyways, I'll take a vacation at some point, maybe.
All right.
Okay, we'll end it
Take
there.
care.
Have a good
Goodbye.